Hello, everyone. We are getting set up here for the garden hour. We want to welcome you for coming today. Um, I did not pull up the PowerPoint. I'm kind of a little bit behind here. I got distracted with some chatter. So anyway, why don't we just go ahead and start rolling off and go ahead with Zack with the weather, and then I'll come back with some of our introductory things. So Zack, if you are ready, we can take it away.
Great. Thank you, Gwen. And hello, everyone. Hopefully, everyone's enjoying the summer so far. Before I look ahead here, want to look back at how June ended up and how our summer's off to here from a climate perspective. Looking back here at some of these temperatures and precipitation monthly departures from average, we can see May was a little bit on the cool side. June was a little bit on the warm side, but honestly pretty close to average. Those June temperatures were 1.7 degrees Fahrenheit above average, and that was our statewide average there. Really, May and June, we've seen kind of typical summertime warmth so far. June definitely was a wet month across most of the state here, so we see that the statewide average precipitation during June was 6.5 inches, and that's about an inch and a half above average for the time of year. June's one of our wettest months, and then we added another inch and a half of rain to that. And after a normal May and a very wet April,
Say it happens to be something I can mute. It's another Zoom, but it's on gardening. I think I can mute it. At home.
sorry, and then we see that for the precipitation adding up April through June really puts us as a wet year so far, and that's even with some of the winter and early spring months here that were a little bit dry. We see those totals we've seen more recently have really put us ahead. Temperatures have honestly been a pretty mixed bag or a roller coaster so far this year. But we see right now we're on pace for a slightly warmer year, 1 degree above average so far. And if we had a wet June, that has certainly persisted into July. This is just the 7-day rainfall radar estimated, and there's a lot of color on this map. These are kind of garden variety pop-up thunderstorms, and so we see pretty variable totals here. So I think everybody has seen some rainfall over the past week in Missouri, but how much has just been kind of luck of the draw. If you get under one of those slow moving thunderstorms, it can dump a few inches. Otherwise, some of us just got maybe a half to an inch and a half over the past week, but I would definitely characterize it as a wet week overall. And so when we look back at our drought monitor map here, this was released last Thursday, and less than 10% of the state is showing any kind of dryness or drought. And so definitely makes sense given the wetness we've seen here. And this map was really released last Thursday ahead of when we saw even more rainfall. And so, for example, northeast Missouri, this kind of 2 to 3 inches north and east of Kirksville there. That'll be accounted for in the next drought monitor map. So I think we'll see more improvements and maybe even get rid of the last of this moderate drought. And so a good place to be with the drought situation for mid-July here in Missouri. And so how has July looked so far now that we're about at the midway point here for the month? A continuation of June, really. If we look first at the kind of 5 sites here around the state, temperatures are within a degree of average. So it has been hot and humid, but pretty much normal summertime heat for the first half of the month here. And then we see the precipitation totals, whether you look at the site or the map. And again, it's pretty splotchy and variable. So where have those thunderstorms popped up and dumped the most rain? I will note if you look at kind of the Kansas City area and a little bit farther south, definitely the driest part of the state to start July here. And Kansas City may be a little bit on the dry side, and we've seen some of that abnormal dryness as they are just a hair over 2 inches below average so far for the month. But most of us wet so far. And so moving forward, if we're looking at the high temperatures today, if you've been outside already, you know it's a hot and humid day right now across Missouri, and so we do expect mid 90s this afternoon for most of the state, but combining the humidity and the temperatures with the heat index pushing those feels like temperatures up to as high as 105 along the I-70 corridor or the Boot Heel, a little cooler, but still in the hundreds for most of the state. So a really kind of warm and uncomfortable day. But the good news is that all this warmth and humidity is kind of pulling up ahead of a cold front that's going to move through the state starting this evening, really. And so here I'll show we do have a few heat advisories in effect for Southeast Missouri and the Boot Heel today. But I'll note that although we don't have heat advisories across the rest of the state, we're very close to that criteria. So it's still going to feel pretty hot. And if you're outside, do take those precautions as well. But later on, this heat combined with the incoming cold front is fortunately going to bring us some rain chances as well, and that'll start to cool things off. And so this is the rainfall expected here over the next 24 hours, mainly a northern Missouri event where we'll see anywhere from a quarter to an inch of rainfall. And I think totals should be more widespread with this front coming through and not just pop-up thunderstorms. On the right is from the Storm Prediction Center, and we do have a marginal risk for severe storms with this front, but overall, maybe just an isolated storm with damaging winds, nothing widespread. So mostly just a hot event with some rain coming in on the backside here. And so tomorrow, if we look at the same kind of forecast for precipitation, we see that front continuing to sag off to the south. And so now maybe south of I-70, that same quarter to 1 inch forecast for rainfall totals there. By Friday, another chance for maybe up to a quarter inch of rainfall for a couple of spots, but most of the organized rainfall will be moving out ahead of the weekend. And then I'll kind of look ahead here as our daily storm chances start to dwindle. We've had 2 to 3 weeks really where you could see a pop-up thunderstorm almost every day based on the forecast. But I do think we're going to get into a drier pattern next week. If we look at the rainfall expected on Saturday to Monday, and then from Monday to Wednesday, you kind of see all this activity starting to push off to our north and east. And so we'll lose that probability for daily thunderstorms sometime by early next week. And that's because we're actually going to see a ridge with some really warm temperatures and a drier air mass moving in next week. So this will be really starting maybe Sunday or Monday, but this is the forecast just from one model for Tuesday afternoon next week. And it's our first day that the model is showing 100 degrees in the forecast here, right around the St. Louis area. And so this would definitely be some impressive heat. If we look at the state's hottest temperatures so far in 2025, we've only hit 98 in a couple spots. So we haven't reached 100 degrees yet, but there could be a chance of that certainly next week as well. And so I'll end kind of looking ahead with a little bit of an extended outlook. And first, just starting, this is the 8 to 14 day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. And there's a lot of red here. And this bullseye on the map really shows high confidence in warmer temperatures throughout the rest of July. So really expecting that heat that comes around early next week to maybe stick around for a week or so here. And so we see really 70 to 80% chance of those above average temperatures continuing as well. For precipitation, we see some color on the map here, but really low probabilities. And I think when we look in that week 2 and this kind of thunderstorm activity, it's pretty difficult to predict exactly who will get how much rainfall, but we do see here maybe a chance of drying out a little bit in southwest Missouri, which would be a break from some of this wet pattern we've been in. And I'll end here. This is my last slide, but it's a seasonal outlook for July through September. It's a little out of date. There'll be a new one released tomorrow that'll look through August through October at this link. But it'll probably look pretty similar to parts of this here where we look for really the entire United States. It is expected that we should see some warmer temperatures through the late summer and early fall period. Now, while we're expected to be on the warm side of Missouri, probabilities are lowest here, but I think we'll definitely see some late season heat throughout the US and equal chances here for Missouri on the precip, which means we've got the same chance of wet and dry and kind of not leaning in either direction. So we'll have to see how the rest of the season goes or if our current conditions persist at this point. So that's all I've got for today. And everybody stay cool as we get through the end of summer here. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. We were talking about, I'm up here in Northwest Missouri, and I feel like our precipitation is just about right now. And some of my gardens over in North Central, they've been flooded out. But here, I really haven't had to irrigate anything, and things seem to be growing pretty well. I was a little bit concerned at the beginning because it was really dry. So anyway, I appreciate that. I know the southern part of the state's really having a hard time with all the water, with everything. So just a little bit of bookkeeping here. If you have any questions, you can send those to Jennifer Schutter at Ask Questions Here, and she will either answer your questions directly or put them out to the rest of us so that we can answer them. Also know that this will be recorded and posted on our IPM website so that you can review that at a later date if you need to. So with those things out of the way, our first speaker today is going to be Kathi Mecham, and she is going to talk to us about some summer bouquets or some ways to make some flower bouquets with our plants.
Thanks, Gwen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So Traven put a link in the chat, I believe, and if not, she's going to. We have a really good publication called Cut Flowers in the Garden. And so some of my flowers do mimic what's in there, but it is a very good publication for youth and adults. It lists a lot of easy to grow flowers, shows you how to plant the flowers, shows you about flower arrangement, and it's and more tips. So it's a really good publication. These are just cone flowers. I like simplistic designs as well as more complex. I like just single flower designs like just cone flowers. I think it's very impactful. So this is, we had the flower show at the fair this week or this past week. And so I'm on that committee, and I do a lot of the arranging for them just to have them as display, not to enter them. And then I get to bring them home and have them in my home. And then most of these flowers did come from my garden. I did get a large bouquet from an Amish grower that I know. So a few of these came from them. These on that top left picture, the blue painted grass, I didn't do, but I really like it. And I really like the idea of using just about anything in your yard to add to your arrangements. And you can see a lot of these are zinnias. I use a lot of hydrangeas, the white hydrangeas as a big filler, and then start adding small, more colorful flowers. In this second one, in the top one, I used salvia. So I just have salvia in my yard, and it just adds some height and some color, as well as a coneflower, just the top of the coneflower where all the seeds are. And then this bottom one, right beneath it, those are flowers from a hosta. So just something unique to throw in there and add some interest. And if you can't see this very well, but towards the back of that is a dried out brown seed head that I found on the side of the road. And I don't know what plant it was. It was near my home. I would never dig up flowers or anything like that, but there was a lot of it. And so I chopped one down. It made quite a mess, but it did add a lot to the flower garden, to the flower arrangement. They did have some carnations in their arrangements, and I'm hoping to talk to them and ask them if they are growing carnations. or they looked like carnations. I should say I didn't get to talk with them. I just got the bouquet. So you can see black-eyed Susan, zinnias, and the furthest one at the bottom on the right. There's purple phlox in there, as well as white phlox and the hydrangea. Here's some of the simpler ones that I like to do, just the black-eyed Susans. This was later in the season last year for that black-eyed Susan. Mine aren't blooming yet. And then I like to just do things like this, put them in different containers, just kind of whatever strikes me, whatever works for this is on the back porch, and this works real well on the back porch, and it's just zinnias. Same with the cosmos, just it's almost, to me, that's an elegant arrangement, very simple, not much arranging to it, but just very attractive. And this is one of my favorites over here because I added the marigold foliage. And it just adds a lot of interest. And I added something called smartweed, which I get a lot of use out of the smartweed in my garden. It's not a native smartweed, but I keep it controlled. The bees like it early in the spring. I like it as kind of a ground cover, and then I also like it to add accent to a flower arrangement. Same here. These all went to the flower show, and zinnias, marigolds are all very long lasting in water, and so you'll have a bouquet for quite a while. In that first one, you can see I used a hostas leaf as some accent. The theme of the fair this year was roots and boots. So some of these are, you can see in that first picture, you can see the boot in that. There's some of the brown dried seed that I used. And then in the third one, you can see where I just stuck that smartweed in at the top and here on the side. And I use every aspect of every range of the hydrangeas: green, fully in bloom, and then dried as well. Same. Sometimes I just stick grass in a nice vase, especially in the fall. And these were done this year. It's not fall yet, but I think I have one with just grass in a container. Marigolds again, and I use some lantana. I use Dusty Miller. That's a nice one that will last a long time in water as well. These were done in the fall. Again, the back porch for the pumpkins and marigolds, and then just dried grass in a nice vase can just provide a nice touch in your house. More little things, just again, salvia, marigolds, Dusty Miller. I just like having these in my yard for this reason, and just to have in my yard. This is a garden that I have in the fall, and so it's goldenrod, aster, and black-eyed Susan, and I see a weed right there. But I really like this. I think it's very pretty outside, so I want to recreate that in my house. So I'll take a few of each and try to create something very similar to this and put it in the house this fall. And that's all I have, and I believe that's the last slide. Yeah. If somebody's got any questions, do look at that publication. It's really good. It's got a lot of hints and a lot of good flowers to grow for cut flowers.
All right, thank you, Kathi. It's always fun to just kind of walk along and pick some flowers and then just try to put them into a nice little arrangement. And sometimes just a really nice, pleasing thing to add into your home sometimes. All right, we had a question come in about tomato leaves and how they are twisting and curling. And so Traven is going to talk to us a little bit about some of the reasons that might be occurring. So Traven, if you're ready, you can go ahead and take it away. I think we're seeing you need to flip the presentation versus, there you go. Now it's looking great. And you might be muted.
All right, there we are. You can never tell with this technology if it wants to behave or not. So we get, I guess I don't want to speak for all hort specialists, but I can definitely say I've had several calls about tomatoes. We've had kind of a lot of different challenges. And when we get this call about tomatoes, whether they're twisting and curling, it could be a lot of things. So it's definitely a mystery when we get this. So the first really main one is a physiological leaf roll, or we usually this is due to a lot of different types of stress. This could be a wind injury, high temperature. It can be insufficient moisture, and also excess nitrogen. Sometimes if we do any root pruning or severe pruning, we can see this defense mechanism of that physical rolling of that leaf to kind of as a way of the plants trying to protect themselves. Another issue that usually we wouldn't have this here in mid-July, but excess moisture. And we'll see this. This is from our one of our other horticulture specialists in Cape. Out of her garden, she had all kinds of excess moisture issues, and looking really closely, you can kind of see some yellowing, and you also see that leaf roll because those roots are not getting enough oxygen. Essentially, those roots are drowning because they can't get that oxygen and air from that soil. So another issue that we can be kind of a challenge is our tomato viruses. One of the most common viruses that we see that causes that curling is tobacco mosaic virus. This coincides with some of that yellow molting on those leaves, along with that curling and some of that spindly kind of shoestring look, you could say. Couple more viruses that are some of the more common we see: cucumber mosaic virus. Again, we see more droopy, but again, we can have some of that leaf curling up at the top of our plants. This commonly gets confused or mistaken as herbicide damage, but we'll look at a few of those examples in just a minute. Looking at the viruses, there's tons and tons of viruses. So that's why it's really important to utilize University of Missouri Extension's Plant Diagnostic Laboratory. When our horticulture specialist, if we rack our brains and we can't figure it out, we're going to send it off to testing to really help you pinpoint and identify exactly what's causing it. So these two, the next two have pretty similar names. We have a tomato plant that's infected with tomato yellow leaf curl virus. This is caused by whiteflies. Our other one is, you may hear of it as curly top virus or beet. That should be an E, sorry, beet curly top virus. It affects a lot of our different vegetable species as well. So that can be another culprit. Kind of last but not least is the herbicide or off-target drift. So this can commonly happen if you are using the different chemicals for lawn maintenance or managing pasture land that's close enough to your garden. So this is the first photo is an example of your glyphosate exposure. If you look closely, you can kind of see that white discoloration, almost yellow chlorotic as well. And the middle photo is your leaf and stem distortion on your tomato plants from your 2,4-D. So this is mainly your plant growth regulators. And our last photo are some of these herbicides that we find in hay and field and pasture production. They usually have a longer lifespan and they don't break down as quickly as something like 2,4-D does. So this is your residual herbicides. So your picloram, amino, pyrrolid. So if you are close to hay crop, pasture land farming, this has been kind of an issue. If we get some straw or hay or anything, we compost that. We also have issues finding it in some of the manure, hay and bedding, if we use any of that. Like I said before, these chemicals do persist a little bit longer than some of our others. So again, when they eat the hay, even in the manure, and then when you compost, that these chemicals are still not broken down. So that can cause issues, and you can see that herbicide residue maybe pop up in your vegetable garden. All right, so couple different sources there to kind of help diagnose and give a lot more photos. I try to keep it pretty brief for garden hour, but there's all kinds of different sources and photos. And if you do have any questions, reach out to your extension specialist to help identify that if you have any issues.
Thank you, Traven. Would you be able to copy those links and put them in the chat after we're
Yeah, absolutely.
here just a little bit? I got the one in there for you, but I wasn't able to get those last ones. So yeah, there's so many viruses, so many things that can affect your plants. It's always really hard to figure out exactly. I know for me, that's probably the most challenging part of my job, is trying to figure out those diseases and viruses and all of those things and differentiate it from environmental versus something that we've done. So always really good information.
Yeah. I would like to add too, I know Jennifer is going to be talking shortly about your all-American selection varieties. Look at those varieties that are kind of resistant to mosaic virus, cucumber virus, things like that, to kind of help with those type of issues that aren't herbicide related. So
right, yeah, I agree. I'm trying to look for that when I buy my plants now. All right, I would like to challenge you guys or ask for your participation. I would like for you to drop in the chat whether or not you're planning to start a fall garden. So take a few minutes and drop a line in the chat. Are you going to start a fall garden, or are you just going to be done? And I'll get the next presentation going here. All right, now I can't see the chat. So if Traven or Kathi, somebody, if you wouldn't mind, what are we
lots
hearing?
of yeses, couple no's, nope, no fall garden, couple more yeses. So
Looks like a split vote, maybe. I know sometimes when we get into the last part of July, we've come back from vacation and the rain shut off and we're just done with gardening, with weeding and all of that. So sometimes it's hard to get motivated to start a garden. So thank you all for participating in that little activity and giving us your ideas on what you're planning on doing. So my presentation is about starting a fall garden. Maybe I can entice you to maybe start a small one. So I want to talk about what plants you can grow and harvest in the fall. And then do I need to start with seeds or plants? And I'll just kind of talk about some of that a little bit. So really, there are some things that you can direct seed. So this makes it a very cheap way. Of course, you do have to prepare the seed bed and all of that, but we can do beans, carrots, kohlrabi, lettuce, and so on. Really anything that you planted early in the spring that has more of a shorter time frame. And it also kind of depends on where you are in this part of the state. So if you are down in the southern part of the state, you might have more options than what I do up here in the north part of the state. But there are quite a few that you can look at. So I'm going to kind of look at each one of those individually here. So with beans, there's really 4 different types. We have bush beans, wax beans, half runner types, and then there are also pole beans. And really any of those we can grow or plant now, or with the dates that you see coming up here for a fall harvest. So my beans did not do well at all when I planted them back in April. So we were kind of droughty at that point. They just did not act, they didn't germinate. So I'm going to try to restart the beans here in just a couple of weeks and see if I can get maybe a fall crop. I really love the Cherokee wax, mainly because I can see the beans easier when I pick them. So I always tend to favor those purple and yellow colors just so my eyes can see the fruit and I can pick them easy. The ones that I have here were mentioned in our vegetable planting guide as well as, and they correlated with All American selections as well. So I wanted to kind of give you some options that you could plant and what varieties to look for. And you can see the range down there at the bottom. For me, and then, like I said, in about another couple of weeks, I should be able to start planting some of those. So your beets, we have Ruby Queen is one of the All-American Selects that was also listed in our vegetable guide. And you can see again, end of July, 7/25, right around the first, end of July, 1st of April. If you're in South Missouri, you can wait a little bit longer. And then for carrots, we have the Imperator. That was one of the first All-American selections. I think that was like 1933, 1932, and it's still on the market today. Our vegetable guide also lists Bolero and also Little Fingers that you can plant. So those I would really have to, for me, I'm really going to have to get on it because that's 7/20. So that's just, next week really for me. So if I want to try carrots again, I need to get going with that and try to look for those seed packet types. Kohlrabi, I missed planting the All-American selection, the Constance, the F1. I saw Jennifer's and was incredibly jealous. She got hers in the spring and it did really well. So I'm really excited to try this here in our garden. So I want to try to get that planted again next week. Another variety that you might look for that's also listed in our vegetable guide is Grand Duke, which is that classic white green kohlrabi. So either one of those would probably do okay. And you can see the dates down there at the bottom. And you can see it's about a week difference, whether you're from North Missouri to South Missouri or in the central. Lettuces. So again, I was looking at cross references between All-American selections and then also ones that we had listed in our publication. So Butter Crunch and leaf lettuces, really those bib lettuces and leaf lettuces are the ones that would do well as a fall planting. Head lettuces, romaines, probably not so much just because they take a little bit longer to grow. But you can certainly get salad bowl and Butter Crunch, and this Bower is what we had in our packets for the All-American selections for this year. And it grew really well, both out in the garden. I grew some hydroponically. It did well for that. It tastes great. It has a really nice flavor. So looking forward to planting that again. And then radishes, you can also grow a little bit later in the time, but generally speaking, that's kind of what we have for radishes. And here's a good variety that you might look for. Now that one has been around for a very long time as well. And here's spinach. Most of the ones that I found for fall planting needed to be that Savoy type with the crinkly leaves. Bloomsdale Longstanding is probably is an old standby and it's been around for a very long time. It has a heat tolerance. So planting it now, it can still deal with some of that hot weather that we have coming up in August and September. But it should still go ahead and it's slow to bolt. So you should be able to get another crop of that. And you can see for me, I need to get on that quickly. If you're in Central or South Missouri, you've got a little bit more time. Okay, now, so those are the things that we can transplant, can direct seed, but we also can do some transplant. Now you could start these from seed, but if you wanted to have a plant big enough to transplant, you probably should have started those indoors under climate control, probably in June or so to have plants big enough to be ready to plant outside. So all of our cold crops, broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower, we can use as a fall planting. So here are a couple of broccoli. So you can look for, I would definitely look, and I've listed the other varieties down here that are recommended for Missouri in our vegetable guide, but try to find those varieties for the fall planting. I think that you'll have better luck. The Purple Magic F1 is one of our new ones for this year. That I think is going to be pretty cool to do. And then Premium Crop is kind of an old standby. For cabbage, we have the Savory Ace, and which is kind of the crinkly type lettuce head, and then also Stonehead, which is another old standby, but other varieties that you might want to look for: Golden Acre, Bravo, Head Start, Conquest, or Gourmet. Those would need to be planted pretty quickly here in North Missouri. And even Central Missouri, you've got a little bit more time, but be thinking about that and looking for those plants if you're wanting to have some cabbages for later in the fall. And these will withstand a little bit of frost, so you can get a little bit longer growing season out of them. They're not necessarily going to be done once we get a frost, depending on how hard it is. Cauliflower, kind of the same thing. We have the new one, the I'm not sure I'm saying that, Marascaki Floretto. Is the purple cauliflower, and it has kind of the longer internodes to make it a little bit more attractive, I guess. It's kind of the trend that's kind of happening with cauliflower in some areas. And then Snow Crown is just kind of an old standby. So those are, again, some things that we can look for transplants in their garden centers and see if we can get some of those going. And then I put on Brussels sprouts, and I would like to open this up to some of the other horticulture specialists. I've read not to plant, Brussels don't do real well here because we have such a hot summer. But I'm wondering if anyone has tried this as a fall garden plant. So Kathi or Jennifer, I don't know if Traven, have you had any luck with planting these as a fall crop?
I have not. I wonder, and Jennifer may know, or Traven, I don't know if there's enough time for them, if there's enough time for them to develop.
Well, I do have experience growing Brussels sprouts. I purchased the plants in the spring because you normally can't find transplants now, okay, for a fall garden. So I buy them in March, and that's the time I plant them. And they grow, they develop, but they never get very big. The actual little heads don't get very big. And I think they struggle through the heat and humidity of summer. And then it is recommended to pinch them back. So I have pinched them back, and they still don't turn out to be much. So they always turn out to be usually marble size. I've tried many times through the last 25 years to grow Brussels sprouts. And I finally decided I'm done. About 2 years ago, I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to grow any more Brussels sprouts. It's just easier to buy them out of California or Southern Arizona, or wherever they're coming from. So that's been my experience. Yeah, in North Missouri, where it is cooler.
Right. Exactly. And I'd be interested, again, if you wanted to drop in the chat, if you've had any luck with Brussels sprouts in your area, and if you did anything special, or how you worked with that. I don't know. I would just be curious. I like Brussels sprouts, so I thought, I wonder. It just made me wonder. So in summary, fall is a great time to plant for another harvest opportunity. Generally, we have fewer pests in the fall. We have more consistent and less intense rain. So weather conditions usually are a little bit better. And if you kind of focus on our cole crops and some of the leafy greens, you should have some good luck with some of those things. So I've kind of forgotten to ask, that's all I have for this presentation, but have there been any questions either in the chat or to you, Jennifer, that we can address?
Well, I've just gone through the chat and I don't see any questions. I made a few comments if you guys want to look at those regarding Bower lettuce, which you mentioned, Gwen. And then I also put in a spinach variety that I really like, but it's more of a canning spinach or a freezing spinach more than a fresh eating. That's Giant Noble. So you guys might take a look at those comments. other than that, I don't see any other questions or comments in here.
All right, thank you. All right, so Jennifer, you're the next speaker here. We are going to be talking about some of our AAS plants. So I'll let you take it away.
All right, thanks, Gwen. So I have been growing All-America Selection plants since mid-April, as well as many others. Well, actually, I believe there's 4 sites in Missouri that are growing the All-America Selection plants. And guys, I'll tell you, it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, and we're learning a lot, and that's why we do it. We want to learn about these plants so we can make recommendations. And this month, I'm going to focus on the marigolds and a few others that we haven't talked about yet. So I'm up here in Kirksville in the Northeast region, and the garden looks spectacular right now. Other than some weeds that are in the path that I need to get under control, everything else looks fantastic. And if you are in Northeast Missouri and you want to stop by anytime, just come on by. It can even be a weekend. Just go on back, take a look at the garden. Well, today I want to focus on Siam Gold Marigold as our first AAS winner. Siam Gold has beautiful mounded foliage that produces globe-like, fully double golden flowers. And we aren't at the end of the season yet, but what I understand is it will bloom all the way to the first hard freeze. And I really am impressed with this one. It has flowers that set on top of the plant, so they're not down in the foliage. They're very easy to see. They're bright. They're beautiful. And they are a double tight flower. And they make a good cut flower. So I have cut a few for cut flowers, and they are spectacular. So I highly recommend this one. And I started all but 2 All-America Selection plants by seed. So these were seed started here at the Adair County Extension Center. And this is what the planting looks like. Really pretty. I mean, this is what I'm really impressed with. The next one I want to show you is Mango Tango, and another beautiful marigold. It is not as large as Siam Gold. It is a smaller, more compact plant. Mango Tango dances through the garden, strutting its stuff. A stunning, super saturated bicolor flower of yellow and red. It is a compact plant. It's vigorous. It has lots of blooms, and they're very eye-catching. Here you see a planting at the Adair County Extension Center. I planted all the plants in square beds. These are about 10 by 10 beds. And so here we have Mango Tango. The next one I will focus on is Vanity Verbena. This is a 2022 AAS winner. And this one is a really good cut flower. And it's not every day we see a new plant for, that's like a cottage garden plant. But this one, well, it's wow. That's what I have to say about it. It just wows you. It is a pollinator paradise. That's a good way to put it. Pollinator paradise. There's a lot of butterflies out there. There's bees, there's bumblebees, there's honeybees, there's dragonflies. It's amazing to see all the pollinators around Vanity Verbena. It has deep blue purple flowers. They're about 1 to 1.5 inches across. And it does perform well in the heat and humidity. Yeah, we haven't been real dry. We have had about 1 inch of rain in the Kirksville area for about the last 2 months, and it's been hot, humid, and this one is doing really well. And there is a comment from one of the AAS judges. They said, this entry was my favorite in all of this season's entries. This season, as in 2022. The next one is Viking Begonia Explorer Rose on green. This plant performs exceptionally well and has high impact color. It's a trailing begonia, and it explores the garden by spreading and spilling its branches over the edges of hanging baskets and containers. It has prolific rose-colored flowers that stand out against the glossy green foliage all season long. That's how they get the name rose on green. It has a strong tolerance to heat and many diseases, as well as both wet and dry conditions. And here you see it in containers. These are at my house. It's doing really well. It is starting to spill over the containers. The photo on the left is at the Adair County Extension Center, and it is planted directly in the ground. So I will tell you, I'm more impressed with it in a container. So they did trial it as a container plant, and it is spectacular as a container plant. And I will say more so than directly in the ground. Here we have coral candy coleus. And you see two different photos here with different colors. Well, the one in the container is in a pot at the Adair County Extension Center on our front porch, and it is getting more sun than the other one here on the right, which is planted in a raised bed. And the raised bed is behind the extension office, and it is shaded, I'd say a good portion of the day. The corner of the bed I have it in gets a lot of shade. And I believe that it is darker in color and looks like that due to getting more shade versus the other one getting more sun. Both are beautiful, both are spectacular, and this plant makes a good container plant. The AAA judges noted that this variety holds its color well, even when grown in full sun. This variety was entered into and trialed in the container trials, and it is good for small gardens and containers. Late in the season, it was observed that it held up nicely in the fall and had almost no flowers even late in the season. And it is flowering, and you can see little flowers in the photos here, but they're not your big typical flowers we see on coleus. I've not let them get that big, so I've been pinching them off, but it is noted that it doesn't have big flowers. All right, here we have dragonfly purple pepper. Man, is this one impressive. If you're in the Kirksville area, come on out and see this one. Dragonfly pepper produces beautiful purple peppers that have thick, sweet walls, unlike the thin, papery walls of other purple peppers on the market. Similar to the beloved dragonfly that flits around your garden, this pepper transforms itself from a green pepper into a purple fruit that is as delicious at the green stage of maturity as it is when fully purple and mature. Overall, it's a much better purple color than comparisons with above average robust pepper flavor. Fruits are held high on the plant, keeping them off the soil. The four-lobed fruits do not fade, and if left on the vine, turn a beautiful bright red color. So I am going to leave a few on the vine so I can see that beautiful bright red color. But right now they are changing to purple, and they are very pretty. And here you see them in their 10 by 10 bed at the Extension Center here. Just a very impressive plant. And I will also tell you that some of these AAS plants are so impressive that I cut them or pick them, and I put them in the Northeast Missouri District Fair that is going on right now in Kirksville. So right now I have several of the flowers, AAS flowers out there at the fair. I have several of the vegetables on display at the fair. I just wanted to share all the different plants we're growing in the AAS garden with the public. So what better way than to take them to the Northeast District Fair here in Kirksville. And that is all I have. Does anyone have any questions? Either unmute and ask or type in the chat.
We had one question about how marigolds repel. Maybe they specifically asked about rabbits. I found a source that said that they don't, but I've always heard that they help repel insects and bugs and things like that. What do you think about that?
I believe that is true because for the past 24 plus years in our Garden to Grow Youth Garden program, I use a lot of marigolds. I had the kids plant marigolds around the squash plants that typically get cucumber beetles and squash bugs. And it really held those insects off until I'm going to say early to mid-August. So we went most of, June, July with not a lot of those insects. I think after a while, by the time we get to, late summer, they're getting used to the marigolds maybe, but it does work there for a while. So we've been using them for years for that reason, because I believe they do help repel insects. And then the insects don't necessarily like to eat marigolds. So these marigold plants, a mango tango and the Siam gold, they do not have any insect bites on them at all that I have seen. So they themselves are insect free, but in marigolds in general have repelled insects in our garden here. And for that reason, I grow marigolds every year, and I try new marigolds every year. There's a vanilla colored one, kind of a creamy one, that our colleague Donna and I have grown as a cut flower. It has a long stem. It has a lot of vanilla colored flowers on it. So, there's different marigolds out there. Find the one that interests you and try it in your garden. Oh, do marigolds repel rabbits? So I have had rabbits eat marigolds. So for years, we've had a nest of rabbits under our big 4-H shed. We have had a nest of rabbits, and we're like on the probably the 24th, 25th generation or more. I don't know how many litters they have a year. Anyway, they're always in the garden. So our garden is fenced off. So I have chicken wire fencing around every single All America Selection garden bed to keep the rabbits out. Because from previous experience, they have eaten the marigolds. So they do like them. There may be some varieties out there they don't like, but the ones I've grown, they like.
Yeah, the rabbits wiped out my first my spring planting of broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage. So they got
Oh yeah, they
before
love
I
the
could get
cold
the
crop.
fence up. Oh man, yes. I've also been impressed with the pink deco petunia that was with our All American Selects this year. That we got. It's just done fantastic in our containers in front of the Holt County office, and just is thriving on concrete and blazing sun. So I've just been really impressed with that one as well.
Yeah,
So I think
I would totally agree with you, Gwen. Deco Pink Max is spectacular. And again, if you're in the Kirksville area, and if you're in the outlying counties, if you're in, Scotland, Knox, Clark, Sullivan, any of our surrounding counties in this area, or even other counties, and let's say you're just traveling through Northeast Missouri, please come to the Adair County Extension Center and walk through the garden and see these impressive plants that we're talking about. And I want to mention on July 23rd, that is next Wednesday, that is a week from today, I am going to be hosting a garden tour here so people can see the All America Selection display garden. I have invited the Kirksville area master gardeners, the Sullivan County master gardeners, and anyone else that is interested. So 6:30 next Wednesday, July 23rd. You guys are welcome to come. And I will start with a short presentation in the extension office. I'll tell you how we got started back in January, give you a little information, show you some of the photos from the early months of doing this. And then we'll go out to the garden. We'll take a look at all these impressive plants that we've been telling you about for the last several months. So again, July 23rd at 6:30 at the Adair County Extension Center in Kirksville. If you cannot make that, I am hosting the Putnam County Garden Club out of Unionville tomorrow evening here at the extension office. That's Thursday, July 17th at 6 p.m. So you're welcome to come either time. Just reach out to me, and if you have questions, and be glad to, I'd even be glad to give you a personal tour if you want to just come on your own. So I guess that's all, Gwen.
Okay. Okay. Any other participants have any other questions before we wrap things up for the day? I'm hearing crickets, so I think we are good. So let me just
Gwen.
Oh, yes.
Since we do have a few minutes, there is one thing I will address. I'm actually kind of surprised nobody brought this up in our chat. How many of you are dealing with Japanese beetles right now? I'm going to say the whole state is actually, but we are seeing more Japanese beetles in Kirksville this year than we ever have. We have been so lucky here in Kirksville. For years, when other parts of the state had large numbers, we did not. But now this year, we're overrun with Japanese beetles, and we're getting questions on how do I control them? What do I do? So, a lot of people want to use organic products, and that's fine. Neem oil might knock them back a little bit. It might not. Okay. And just to be honest with you guys, the organic products aren't working real well on Japanese beetles, but something else does, and that's liquid 7. Now, we don't normally go and say, oh, spray everything with liquid 7, because it kills pollinators. I love pollinators. I teach a pollinator class. So be careful using the synthetic insecticides, okay? Spray at the appropriate times. Usually early in the morning or later in the evening is better because the bees are
Oh, Jennifer, I think you cut out there a little bit.
powder insecticide. I don't even recommend powder insecticides anymore to my clients because we don't want the powder getting on the bees and going back to the hive. So we recommend liquid 7, and it does work. I'm having clients say that they sprayed liquid 7 and it killed the Japanese beetles quickly. Anyone else want to say anything about Japanese beetles? Gwen, do you have them? Oh, are you experiencing a lot over in Northwest Missouri?
I have not seen a lot. I've had other years that have been more. Of course, they wiped out my peaches. They always find that, and it doesn't matter how many I have. They just really like that. But otherwise, no, I'm not seeing as many as I have in past years. So maybe they just kind of move a little bit. And we've been drier over here, so I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
And Traven, what about you? What are you seeing in Southeast Missouri?
I planted a couple new grapevines this year, and they've taken a hit with the Japanese beetle. So I was a little late getting out my traps, but I have been a little reluctant to do the 7. Normally, I'm pretty more familiar with the 7 dust, but I'll definitely give the liquid 7 a try.
Yeah, we're just promoting the liquid. It dries on after you spray it, it dries on the plant, sprayed at the appropriate times, read the label directions. Powdered insecticide, we know now, it gets on the hairs of the bees, and so they can take that back to the hive. So we got it. I just don't even recommend powdered anymore, just because we got to protect the bees. And I teach that pollinator class, so let's protect our pollinators.
That is great.
I always try
Great
to do the
information.
traps. So, yeah, that is great. Yeah, I always try to do the traps and just when I'm out there, pick them off, hand pick. But sometimes they get a little overwhelming. That's not really feasible. So thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, I would, since we have about 3 minutes left, I would also mention that trapping is something you want to be cautious about. Trapping can draw the beetles to your garden. It releases a pheromone that draws them to the trap. So if you have the trap in or near your garden, you're going to be drawing them in that direction. So I trapped Japanese beetles several years ago for a project. Once a project was done, I never put up another trap because it does draw them in. So just heads up, be cautious when you're using your traps and know that you will be attracting them because of the pheromone.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. Okay, well, I think we're getting close on time here, and I know I kept you late last week, so or last month. So I have showing here the map of where the different horticulture specialists are located around the state. Obviously, you can reach out to any of us, and we will help any way we can. Some of the questions are coming in on the IPM platform, and since we are only doing this monthly, sometimes we are moving those questions out to the specialists from that county. So you may hear from them if you're submitting a question online. It may not be addressed here. It just kind of depends on the time and what we have going on for that month. But know that this is available for you. And then also it is live streamed and recorded. So you can go to youtube.com, MUIPM, and you'll also see snippets there from some of the more specific things that we are talking about. So the things are available for you for future reference. And then our next garden hour will be August 20th, again, noon to 1. And you're certainly welcome to send in your question. It may not be addressed during the garden hour, but it will be addressed by the regional horticulture specialist. So we do want to address those questions. And then there were quite a few things that were left in the chat or dropped in the chat. So if you go to the 3 little dots at the top, you can then, it'll get a drop down and you can click save the chat, and it should save it to a file on your computer. And then I think with that, we can say adieu. And again, we thank everyone for joining us today. We hope that you were able to take a little nugget of knowledge away that you can use and put into your garden and have a more successful garden at your place. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thank you again.